Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. How are you? Let me know if you're here. Say hello. Let me know that you're here so I can say hi back. As always, if you have questions, comments, thoughts, disagreements, please share them in the comments, whether you're live or on the replay. I always love to I always create space. I mean, I have certainly things that I have planned to talk about today, as always, but I always create space for questions, comments. If there's something specific you want me to speak about on this topic further, let me know and I will, I'll address that for you live. So that's always the benefit of joining live. And of course you can catch the replay. And if you are on the replay and you do have a comment or question, always just come back in and tag me on that. So to make sure that I see it, and I'll come back in, I'll come back in and respond to your question or comment. So today's topic is about scaling. And I'm just gonna give you a few little, I've got a couple of little announcements here that I want to share just briefly while I double check this tech and make sure that I mean, I know that I'm live, but it always takes a minute to refresh. So today we're talking about scaling. I want to also share, okay, great. Looks like we are here. And hi, if you're live, say hi. I've got a couple of announcements. First off, related to these lives. I mentioned this a little bit last year towards the end of the year, and I realized the other day that I haven't followed up with this group to let you know. So one of the things that I've changed for this group and for my business this year is I'm no longer going to offer the monthly intuitive readings that we've been doing here in the group. I've had such a blast doing them. They've created such a sense of community. It's really been such a pleasure and an honor to channel guidance for this group. And as much as I've enjoyed it, one of the things, and I'm going to talk, one of my lives later this month is going to be, or maybe even in early February, is going to be about how you evolve as a business owner, particularly as a practitioner. And I'm going to share some of sort of my own experiences over the 4.5 years that I've been in business now, and how I've really evolved a lot as a practitioner and as a coach. And one of the things that for me, I noticed towards the end of the year was that even though these readings were super fun, two things actually weren't quite lined. Well, was one thing, wasn't quite lining up with the way that I support my clients. It was really lined up with the way that I supported my clients about 1.5 years ago now, maybe even two years ago, where I used to actually do reading type sessions with people in addition to other, just normal coaching sort of style. And so one of the things I noticed towards the end of last year was that even though these were fun and I purposely kept them, and I think they were very helpful for the group, it felt very like old chapter for me, and it didn't at all reflect my coaching style as it has evolved and changed over time. And I think it was a little bit, when we think about sharing with people what it is that we do and the way that we do it, it was not at all reflective of the way that I coach my clients now. It was very reflective of the way that I coached my clients 2 years ago, maybe ish, when I started doing these readings in the group, those readings in the group. And so it was just one of those things, sort of year end, where I was doing if you haven't watched my live from, I think it was December 9th on, doing an assessment of your business at the end of the year. And now is still a great time to do that. It doesn't have to be at the end of the year. One of the things that I was doing towards the end of the year for my own business, just sort of looking at everything and kind of saying, like, does this still fit? Does it need to be tweaked and improved? Does it need to be let go of? Just sort of all of those things. And this really felt like a different sort of approach to my lives that really wasn't reflective of either my coaching and really also not reflective quite of how I want to continue helping people in the group, because I really have evolved my coaching style to be a really nice blend of both mindset and emotional growth and soul growth and spirituality and woo and energy, with sort of the practical, strategic, holistic way of approaching business from a more practical and tactical perspective. And I really bring both of those together when I support my clients. And what I noticed was, and I hope this is helpful for you, if you're a practitioner, to hear like full permission to make changes to your business, full permission to change how you do things. And that as I've grown and evolved as a coach, that piece of like offering intuitive readings, yes, I'm an intuitive. It's a huge part of how I coach, but I don't channel information for my clients really in a Q&A kind of way. I use my intuitive abilities as a really, it's now much more integrated in the way that I do my work. And it's just sort of how I am and who I am, and what I put out into the world happens to also be highly intuitive. And so it just felt like a highlight of something that I used to do, a highlight of only one slice of the work that I do, and just not at all reflective of the way that I do things. And that just didn't quite feel right anymore. And one of the things that I'm still committed to doing, and I've mentioned this before, hi, who's live? Say hi. Is that we will continue to do these lives every Wednesday. I've stayed on this. I think I've done Wednesday lives every single week since the beginning of 2021, maybe even back into 2020. And I'm very committed to staying on this path. I absolutely love doing these lives. I feel that they are helpful for people. I do feel also that this is a really beautiful way to continue to build this community that's, by the way, growing. And so I will continue to be here just as I always have every single Wednesday. The only difference is the last live of the month will no longer be an intuitive reading. It's just going to be a continued conversation or training on how to run your business on your own terms, how to be more fulfilled, how to look at your strategy, how to look at your business, how to make changes, how to deal with your mindset, all of the things that I always talk about. It's just going to be just like every other Wednesday. So that's going to stay consistent. And it's also going to be, I hope, a place that people will continue to come. I love that people catch it live. I love that people catch the replay. And I also love it when people comment and build on each other's comments and experiences. And I think that's really the magic of this group. So please keep with me. If you have any topics that you want me to be sure to cover in these lives, please feel free to send me a DM or just make a comment here below, ask a question, whatever it is, whatever is going on in your business. Let me know, and I'm happy to use these lives as an opportunity to train you on your particular question or topic or concern. That's a big piece of what I'm going to continue doing here as well. So anyway, just to give you that perspective, so the lives going forward will just be the way that they pretty much have always, just without the intuitive reading. The intuitive readings now slide into just a regular live. And then the other announcement I have is I've got 2 open spots right now for anybody who wants to do one-on-one coaching. When these 2 slots go, I won't have any space to start any new clients until March or maybe even April. So if you're interested in really getting your year started off on the right foot, I would love to talk to you sooner than later. And you can hop on a free call with me just to chat through what's going on in your business, see if we might be a good fit. I always offer my commentary and coaching. I can't not coach someone, so you get a little bit of free coaching as well, and just to kind of get a sense of how we might approach what's going on in your business. So if that's of interest, I will put the link here in the comments when we wrap up this call. Okay. So back to scaling. Today is all about scaling, and I want to just start off by giving a little bit of a reminder of what we're sort of the scope of what we're going to talk about. So when the words that I use to think about like the different phases in business, we start with build, we start by building a business and creating a foundation, right? So we might have a website or a social media profile. We have a certain number, or not even a certain number. We have a place where we go to market ourselves, whether it's online or in person. We have a network of some sort. We have a following, or we have people on our email list, whatever it is for you. We've groups that you go to, however it is that you do your marketing. Once you have created a foundation for your business and you're making some money, it doesn't mean that you're making like exactly every dollar that you want to, but I think people who have a solid foundation and you've gone through that startup phase, and sometimes for people that's 6 months, sometimes it's 2 years, sometimes it's longer, whatever that time frame is for you, doesn't really matter. But if you've built a business and you have clients or customers and you're making money and you have sort of some systems and processes and ways of doing things and ways of serving your clients and your customers that bring in money, even if it's not the amount of money that you want, right? Because we always have more, financial goals and other impact goals. You have built a solid foundation. So today's conversation is under the assumption that you've already built a solid foundation, that you're not building a business up to that sort of like stable or mostly stable point. Now, if you're still in the build phase, please feel free to, please stay, please listen. This isn't to say that it's not for you. A lot of the things that we're going to be talking about today apply, I think, at all levels of business, at all phases of business. I'm just speaking specifically to scaling today. To people who already have a foundation. And that for me is truly what the definition of scaling is. It's taking what you already have, what already is working, even if it's not working perfectly, and scaling it, scaling your impact, scaling your income, growing it to another level. So that you can repeat and build that pipeline and whatever it is that you're looking to do around, I always just say it's around impact and income. So that's sort of the scope of where we're talking about today. And for those of you who are new to me, one of the things to know about me is I'm not very big into formulas. I'm not very big into, let me just tell you exactly how to do it. So this isn't exactly a how-to conversation. I believe that each business owner and each business is unique, even though the strategies that we may choose to support our business are often the same or similar. Not every strategy is a great fit for each individual business. Not every team setup is the best. I think it's important to not recreate the wheel, but to create a structure and a scaling strategy for your business that makes sense for you. And so I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to do that because I can't have a one-on-one conversation with you. That's one of the things I do with my clients. But I am going to talk today about some of the key things you can be thinking about, the questions to ask yourself, ways of looking at scaling so that as you go through that yourself, you have some clarity and you have some, I hope, insights around how to do this. And if you hear nothing else today, just know that you can scale your business in a way that makes sense for you. You don't have to do it just like everyone else. And that's not to say that you have to like strike out and do it differently just for the sake of doing it differently. But I absolutely believe with all the bones in my body, and I see it in my business, I see it in my clients' business, that you can create a business that you love, just like creating a life that you love. You have to create it your own way, right? For some people, that's kids. For some people, it's not. All kinds of different sort of ways of being and having lives and lifestyles. Same with business. So that's my caveat. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have questions. So as we talk about scaling a business, and we're looking to grow our impact and income past where we are right now, because we've built a firm foundation, because we have the basic nuts and bolts of a business, and we have things continuing to move forward. We have clients or customers that we're serving, and we have some money coming in. Okay, so as we look to make that dollar amount and that impact scalable, and with the opportunity to grow. I always think about the word like exponential when I think about scaling. It's not just about, actually, I think about two words when I think about scaling. There's like exponential growth. So it's not just like, here's where I am, and next month I'm going to make a lot more money, and then I'm going to go back right to where I am, right? That's not scaling. Scaling has to do with long-term growth, with the idea that exponentially, or even, oh my God, what's the word that I love so much? Not compound. Oh my God, it'll come cumulatively. There's like cumulative, everything that you do helps you, to build that growth of a audience, of a network, of a pipeline, of a following, of money, of income, of impact, whatever that is. It continually, cumulatively over time, just like a good investment does, it continues to compound. It's like compounded interest, right? You continue to scale exponentially. You set your business up so that it's not 1 month. And yes, of course, your dollars can go up 1 month and down in 1 month. That's totally normal. But that over time, you're not hitting little peak spikes and a mostly same sort of pattern of dollars, for example, but that over time you're going up. Okay. And that doesn't mean that every single month you have to raise your income. And I just want to do away with that myth. That's not true. That's not success. So scaling is about that long-term growth, that growth over time. And it's about setting things up to be, and this is where a lot of people talk about like passive income, and it doesn't need to necessarily be passive income, but it is about that idea that everything that you do kind of builds on itself, so that as you grow, it just gets easier to keep growing because you just keep doing the things that allow you to grow and to scale. And then I also think for sure, you guys are going to never hear me stop talking about sustainability. The idea to grow, the idea is that if you're scaling a business and you actually scale your business, it's growing sustainably, which means you have all the systems, the team, the structures in place to support that growth to continue to go up, right? So again, it's not about I'm going to have, and this is not about not having a launch, but it's not about I'm going to have a launch and make a shit ton of money in February, and then the rest of the year I'm not going to make very much. Again, that's okay if that's your business model. A lot of people have that, but then that would mean the following year when you do your big launch that you have set yourself up for additional scalable growth, right? So I don't know if that was a good example, but when I think about sustainability, it's can you continue this path, this pattern, this growth going forward? Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit about, I'll give you a couple more examples as we go. So a lot of people tell me that the idea of planning for the new year and figuring out, and that's the word that I hear a lot of people say, figuring out how to scale. It's really hard, really complicated, really daunting. And I think that's, in some ways, that's absolutely true. I think when you're looking to do something you've never done, it might feel daunting. It might feel like a really big project. And a lot of times what we like to do with big projects is just put them over there and procrastinate. And I'm here. My hope is that if nothing else today will help you to get started. Just getting started is really, really helpful. And I do hope that today also will help to maybe simplify your concept of what it takes and what you need to do in order to scale. It doesn't have to be complicated. And in fact, one of my primary objectives is to keep things simple. I think a lot of online businesses, particularly those who are selling a specific way to grow and scale, which is not wrong. A lot of people like to tell you, there's a lot of noise out there, that it has to be complicated, and they're never going to use these words, but that it has to be complicated, or you've got to do like 7,000 things. And I just don't agree with that. I haven't seen that to be true in my own business. I haven't seen that to be true in my clients' businesses. And in fact, what I notice with myself and all of my clients is that the more we simplify, the more that we build on what works, which is my first tip for you, the more we build on what's already working, I should say, the easier it gets, and the easier it gets to simplify. It doesn't have to be complicated. So often what I do, the first thing I do with some of my clients is we go in and we look underneath the hood of what's going on in their business, and we uncomplicate and we simplify and we start to go, you know what, this isn't helpful. Like, let's stop doing this. Let's take this and make it easier. Let's take this off somebody's plate and give it to the right person, whatever it is. All about simplifying. So it doesn't have to be complicated. And then the other thing I want to say is I talked in December about how to do like a year-end assessment, sort of how to look at your business and kind of get a sense of what's going well, what's working and what's not. And then in last week's live, I talked about how to plan for the new year. So this is a little bit, I didn't actually intend for today to be part 3, but it could be considered part 3 of this little live series. Because I do want to refer you back if you haven't watched those lives. And you don't feel that you have a sense of what's already working well in your business at all levels, from team to the systems that you're using to, you know, your audience and your impact with your clients, or how you're bringing in, you know, a pipeline of new business. That might be a helpful place to start. But essentially, I'm going to ballpark it for you, or bottom line it for you. Essentially, one of the big things we talked about in both of those lives is how to look at your business and understand what's working and what's not, understand what's draining your energy and what's feeding your energy, what feels clunky. Because before you start to scale, again, this is based on the idea that you have a foundation. The foundation doesn't have to be perfect. But what we don't want to do is go, great, we have a foundation. Let's take that stuff that feels a little clunky and just keep doing it and like keep pounding our heads against a wall, right? It doesn't have to feel clunky. It also, by the way, does not have to feel perfect. And I hear a lot of people saying like, well, until I get this, this, and this lined up, I can't move forward. And I don't agree with that. I think that waiting for perfection, especially in business, is just going to slow you down. You're going to always feel behind, you know, and so anyway, let's get back to what's working and what's not, particularly around what's working and what's not, because we're going back now to your strategy, right? If you're going to scale, what's working and what's not working related to how you're achieving your goals, how you're progressing towards your mission and your vision for your company, how you're making an impact and how you're not making an impact. What's up with that? How, like, let's do a little assessment and understand how we're doing, because before we take what we have and make it bigger, the good news is when you take what's working and make it bigger, do you see how that is scalable? When you take what's not working and you keep doing it more, do you see how that drags you down more? Do you see how that wears you out more? And I saw that particularly, man, that was like one of the hardest things that I had to deal with when I was in corporate, was seeing this like double down on what's not working to try to make it work. And sometimes it's like, let's just move on to the stuff that is working. And I think that's something that I don't see as often in small businesses, but I do see sort of an ignoring of what's not working. And again, this isn't to say that you need to run your business and as you run your business, everything needs to be perfect. But I do think it's a great time before you set your scaling strategy that you have a real good sense of how your business is performing. And that's not simply financially. That's the obvious place to look, but it's not the only place. So go back and watch those lives if you want to get a little bit more information on how to kind of look at that. So we start with how we're doing. We start with what's working. Okay. And the first tip I have for you around that is when you're scaling, I think a lot of people, like I said, want to make it complicated, but also think that, okay, and sometimes this is true, but I think, how do I want to say this? I think a lot of people think, okay, so I started my business. I got it to here. In order to get it here, I have to do everything differently. Everything, I see this so much, or I have to or maybe I can keep doing what I'm doing, but I have to add 97 new things, right? I have to look like that more successful business owner, and I got to be live every month, every week, and I've got to do this, and I have to have stories, and I have to be on YouTube, and I got to be on, God, what's that thing? Clubhouse, and I got to go to networking meetings, and I got to do like, basically like be for additional people that you aren't, right? Adding all these extra things isn't necessarily going to help you scale. And just like I talk about when we're setting any kind of strategy, think about like simplifying and focusing, because the more you try to do 97 things, and I'm not saying that you can't be on all these platforms, but ideally you grow that over time, incrementally, gradually, based on what you already have. And then when you add a new platform, you're just copying from one and dumping into another, or creating something new because you have the time. This idea of I have to like go out and do 97 things in addition to what I'm already doing, for some reason, I think this online space really encourages that approach. And I want to bring you right back to reality. Come right back into your body when you feel that happening. Come right back into your business. Stop looking at what other people are doing. Come back to your mission and vision, and come back to what's already working for you. For example, if you offer a free call, like a discovery call or a free 30-minute consult for new clients, so that they can get a sense of how you work, and that typically helps you book clients, keep doing it. Keep doing it. If you typically promote that, I don't know, twice a month, maybe you start promoting that once a week. Right? Can you see how, and these are just tiny examples, but there's lots of different ways to keep this simple and say, yeah, this really works. And do I have time to do more calls? Do I have time to put out a couple more, posts together and promote that a little bit more often? Or do I have time to go to a networking meeting and share that information with a different audience? Do I want to, instead of just working on Facebook, do I want to add Instagram to my list and share that with that same content with a greater audience? Whatever is, I'm using some of these examples, whatever's working, you can just keep doing that, or you can take that, what's working, and take it up a notch. And again, I always recommend doing that incrementally. You don't need to like go balls to the wall and put out 17 promotion posts a day. That's just not necessary. You can promote yourself more. Most people think they're not promoting them. Most people think they're promoting themselves too much, and they're not actually. But if we build on what's already working, we're not creating the wheel. We already know. You already know. I don't care what your foundation is. I don't care what your income is right now. If you're making, I don't know, $1,000 a month, you know what's working. There may be some things that aren't working, right? Maybe you're doing something and it doesn't feel right and it doesn't feel aligned. I don't know, maybe you're doing Facebook. I'll just use this as an example. Maybe you're doing Facebook Lives and you're not getting a lot of traction, and you've been doing it for a while. It still feels clunky and awkward to you. You're kind of just doing the Facebook Lives because that's what some people like me are doing. And you're like, well, yeah, I'm just going to do the Facebook Lives because that's what the people are doing, right? And it doesn't resonate with you. And you know that you're better one-on-one. You know that public speaking isn't your thing. And it's just, unless you decide that that's something you want to improve upon. And you also maybe know that a lot of your clients aren't going to sit down and watch a live, because maybe they're not on Facebook, or maybe they're doing something else, or maybe they are busy moms and they have short attention spans. And if you're going to do a video, it needs to be a minute, right? Whatever it is, this is why it's got to be specific to your business. Whatever it is, taking what's working and building on it, and taking what's not working and deciding that you can discontinue it, deciding that you can move it into something that does work. These are the kinds of conversations that I like to have with my clients. Okay, I've got another example. So again, you take the thing, right? So let's say free calls are working for you. You can open up more free calls on your calendar if you have the time in your schedule. This is not about working more, right? There's lots of different ways to look at it. You could open up more time. You could, maybe the free calls are working for you, but you've got a little bit of, let's just make this up. Let's say out of every 10 calls, only like 3 to 4 people are actually qualified to work with you. Or maybe qualified, it's not the right word, but maybe we could say like, really in the right place, that really match your target audience. So maybe instead, one of the things that I do, I'll offer this, I really love this. Several years ago, I noticed that was happening with me. And so one of the things that I did is I went in, luckily I have a system that allows me to do this, but you can also do this just like a Google survey. I ask people to fill out a questionnaire before I have a free call with them. That gives me an opportunity to get really grounded in what's going on in their business so that when I hop on a call with them, they don't have to spend like 45 minutes giving me an update on what's going on in their business and what they want coaching with. I already know the nuts and bolts. But it also gives me an opportunity. So that's good for me as a coach. It helps me to have the conversation, helps me to serve my clients better, my potential clients better. It also helps me weed people out. If I see, for example, let's think of an example. Okay, this is always my silly example, but let's say somebody is in business and they created their own business. Okay, I work with people who've created their own business, but let's say they're in business and they don't particularly love what they do. They're not really connected to the work. They're really just out there to make dollars. And it's not a meaningful, purposeful type of work for them. They truly just want to run a business and make money. No judgment there, but those are not that's not my magic. My magic is not helping just any business make tons of money, right? I can help you make tons of money, and I'm really good at helping people who love what they do. That is a huge part of what I do, and I just can't work with someone around their mindset and around their fulfillment and around their creativity while also helping them grow their business if they don't have that basic component, right? So for me, I could probably tell 9 times out of 10, I can tell, and I might send the person back a message and say, hey, I'm not sure that this is a good fit. Let me refer you out to someone else. Or, on first thing on the call, I'm going to ask them that question around how they feel about their work so that I can quickly determine and not waste their time, right? And not waste mine. So again, if you want to build on what's already working, free calls are working for me, and I could probably make it better. That's actually a strategy to scale. And people don't think about it that way, but you don't actually have to like scrap your whole strategy and start something new in order to scale or in order to be successful. You already know, if you have your foundation, you already know that something's working. Okay, I'm going to just take a quick pause for questions, and then we will keep going. Let me know thoughts, questions, comments, what's not making sense, what is making sense. It is not. And Facebook today is slow to refresh. Okay, I am not seeing any comments. I hope that is true. If you are commenting and I can't see it for some reason, I'll come back in and comment. Keep your comments coming. I'll get to you. Okay, so that's another example of taking what's already working and doing something a little bit different with it, but building on that what's already working. I'll give you another example of something that I started recently. So what already works for me, I really like interacting with people. It's a big part of, and I think a lot of coaches are probably like this, but not all. I really like this this group environment. I like coaching one-on-one, and I also have a group coaching program that I run from time to time, and I really like this group. So I like to have that sort of group and one-on-one vibe. One of the things that works for me, and I hear this all the time, I'll hear a client say to me, oh yeah, you said this on your live the other day, or I'll say something on a live and it'll cause somebody to book a discovery call. I know people that watch these lives pretty religiously, they find value in it. So this works for me, not only from a sales perspective, but it gives you really, my people, a chance to really get a sense of who I am. I don't sit here and talk for 2 minutes. I am not short-winded, and I do long-winded. I like to do these like trainings and these long-winded lives to give you as much information as I can. I believe in sharing value. And that really also helps, by the way, quick hit here, that also helps me to get more of the right people when people hop on a free call with me to talk about working together. They've probably already seen some of my lives. They probably already have a sense of my values and the way that I coach and the way that I see business. And they know if that lines up with what they do or not, or with how they want to do things or not. And so they already are primed to go, yeah, I want to see what this person's about. I want to talk to them further. And then of course, people who watch my lives who don't resonate with me don't hop on calls with me, and nobody's time is wasted, right? So these lives work for me. They also work for me from a fulfillment perspective. I really like being able to put out content. I really like being able, a lot of these lives are sort of a compilation of dots that I connect from all my client calls and conversations that I have with various entrepreneurs. And I start to notice themes and things that people are challenged with, or things that people are worried about, or things that people just want to learn more about. And that really helps drive for me what these topics become. And so I really like that. I really enjoy it. I feel that I'm having a good time. Like right now, I get excited about my weekly lives. That's not for everybody, but that's what I like. It works for me from a sales perspective. It works for me because I believe in building community. And then fulfillment wise, I like to just sit here and share information. Not everybody likes to do that. I like that. So because these work for me, because I like them, one of the things that I sat with last year as I was planning my business out for this year, is I want to do more like valuable content. I want to spend more time doubling down on things like these lives and less time on getting like a copywriting set down for social media. I want to spend more time on video. So one of the things, if you're following me on Instagram, I started these short videos, which was, by the way, really hard for me in the beginning. I've recorded several short videos. I'll have probably, I think, one a week to start on Instagram stories. And so now if you're on Instagram, you can get an additional video from me there that you won't get here. And so I have both sort of types of videos running, right? So I went with what worked for me from a sales perspective, from a fulfillment perspective, from a values perspective around building community and having, not having to feel like you're running your business by yourself, that you have a community, all this stuff. And I said, cool, like my Facebook Lives, I'm going to keep doing that. And then the other thing I said is, I do have a little bit of extra time in my schedule now. I have a new team. Well, I've grown my team, I should say, over the last year. And one new team member joined in November. And so I actually have more space now because they've taken some things off my plate. I have some space now to create more videos. So that's what I want to do because that's what works for me, right? So as an example, taking what's working, building on that, again, that's not really all that complicated, right? It's not all that complicated. It's a really easy ad for me. Now, had this been 9 months ago, a year ago, when I had a team of one other person and I was running a group program and I was doing several other things, it probably I wouldn't have had the time to really sit down and focus on it. Okay, so you also have to have those basic, sort of practical things in place as well. And that's where I'm always a proponent of building a team to support you to scale. Okay, so building on what's working, the other piece of that is what's working that you want to keep doing, because here's the thing about sustainability. Okay. There's lots of ways, and I say this a lot, like there's lots of ways that you can put a strategy together for your business to grow and then also to scale. Okay, lots of choices. Just go ahead and assume that whatever you choose is going to work. you may as well pick one that makes sense for you, and also pick one that you enjoy doing. If you don't like doing Facebook Lives, please don't copy my strategy, right? It's not going to work for you because you don't like it. Go do the things that there's so many other ways that you can reach out to your audience. Go do some of those. And that's where I want to say, like, yeah, every strategy is going to work if you keep putting in the time, energy, effort, and adjustments as needed. It's not to say like keep changing things. I think a lot of people pick a strategy and then like 90 days later, that shit didn't work. Let's choose another one. Stay the course, take a deep breath. This is why it's important to make good decisions from the beginning. Make a decision and stick with it and just keep at it. So you may as well pick a strategy that you actually want to execute or implement in your business versus a strategy just because somebody told you that's the only way to do it, right? And then here's the other reason, okay? Guys, this is like something that slapped me across the face one day. So let's pretend you choose a strategy you don't enjoy. No judgment. We've all done it. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to enjoy till you try it. So just go do it. It's okay to make a change. This isn't about like being so rigid that you can't stay in your strategy. But let's say, for example, you choose a strategy that doesn't really highlight your genius, that doesn't really enable, it's not easy, right? Like these Facebook Lives for some people, and for me also in the beginning, would have taken a lot of time to prepare for, to set up for, to gear up for emotionally, mentally, right? I like this stuff. So it's very easy. Yes, I have a plan and an outline and I know, you know, the basic key points of what I want to say, but I'm really good at ad-libbing, at I come up with the better way to say things in the moment than I could have sitting down in advance, you know, writing out my speech. So this is a good space for me. Again, if it's not a good space for you, don't do it. I'm just using this as my very simple, straightforward example. But let's say you pick a strategy, it doesn't highlight your genius, it doesn't really work for you, it's forced, it's effortful, it's hard, it's clunky, but you keep doing it. Okay, no judgment. It's probably going to work. It's probably going to work at some point, right? It may take a lot of energy. It may take a lot of effort. You may feel that you're not being you. You may or may not attract the clients that you want, whatever the thing is. But at some point, I still believe everything gets you to an income goal or an impact goal or what have you. But here's what happens. Okay, let's say your goal is $200,000 a year. You get to $200,000 a year. Oh my God, I made it, right? But we still have to keep going. Even if you never, ever, ever grow past $200,000 and past whatever impact that enables you to make. So I hope that's your other big goal. This isn't a finish line experience, entrepreneurship, unless you're trying to get your business sold, which is fine, no judgment, but this is about learning and growing as a soul, as a person, as a business owner, and that assumes that you continue. This is a long-term journey. There's no like end goal for many people, most people. So let's say you get there. Now you've built a business that pays you a lot of money. But you have to keep doing it the way that you don't like it because that's what you built and that's what now works, right? Or that's what, and again, it's not to say I actually help a lot of people in that space to make changes, to find strategies that they do want to keep doing in the long term. But my whole point about that is, as I often say, is simply not sustainable. Or you don't really want to sustain it. You've burned out on the inner workings of your business because you're just like, ugh, I don't want to do this anymore, right? So you could do it a way that you don't like, but you may as well do it the way that you do like, because once you get to that result, how are you going to keep that result? How are you going to keep that? How are you going to sustain that level of income? You've already got a business that's built that you don't love, right? I'm all about reminding you that you can build a business that you love. You can build a strategy that actually makes sense for you, that you want to keep doing, that you're not looking to, I've said this the other day. I realized sometime in the last year that like retirement is no longer my goal. Not working is no longer my goal. It was back when I was not fulfilled in my work. But now that I have my own business and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, you know, no, I probably won't work until I'm 95, but maybe I will. I don't know. My goal is no longer to work myself out of it, to get myself out of this job. My goal now is to stay in this job and to make the biggest impact that I can. And so that's really, really different. So may as well do it in a way that works for you. And then we've been talking about what's working. Also, just a reminder, looking at what's not working and giving yourself full permission to say, okay, I built this foundation. I don't like, you know, now that I've experimented with these 3 things, these are my 3 main ways that I like accomplish my mission. This one doesn't feel good. And you know what? I just don't want to do it anymore. Full permission to do that too, right? I think I said this in last week's call. One of my favorite coaches he's a coach of coaches, is Rich Litvin. And he has a very simple exercise that he talks about, like what drains your energy and what feeds your energy. And that like, as you grow and scale, as you grow and evolve as a business owner, as your business grows, the goal is always to have more on that list of what feeds you and less on that list of what drains your energy. Okay, let me see if there's something else I wanted to share before we wrap. Yeah, so back to sustainability, back to scaling. Again, I really think that in some ways, strategy is strategy, whether you're, even though I said today is all about scaling, and a lot of, as I hope those of you who are in the build phase also see this, that like ultimately, if you're building a business to get to a firm foundation so that you can then exponentially grow and scale in a sustainable way. Also, how you build your business is also important. The way that you build your business is important, or the way that I have this foundation and I'm going to scale, the way that I scale is important. Because at the end of the day, you're still the one running that business. And if you're not enjoying running the business in that way, then why are you even doing it, right? And I get this a lot with people who say like, you know, and I think this is a large number of people that I've worked with over the years, people who really didn't necessarily start a business to be an entrepreneur, didn't start a business to be a business owner. That wasn't their primary focus. Their primary focus was they have this mission that they feel really compelled to go forth with. They are a practitioner of something. They have a genius in this area, and this is the work that they want to do. They're creative and they want to create things and put them out into the world, whatever it is that you do. And then kind of just by nature of the thing that it is that you do, they became a business owner. Now, that's not true for everybody. But I think that's true for a lot of people. And that's where it gets back to, it's also it's your job to be that practitioner. It's your job to be that, like the essence or the work itself, right? The thing that you do, client service, what you produce, the product you make, whatever it is that you put out into the world. That's your responsibility, but you also have a responsibility to wear that CEO hat. And that's where a lot of people, I think, that I work with, we spend a lot more time in that area, you know, building your skills, because not everybody has experience running a business, building your skills in the CEO area, but also getting more comfortable and confident in that role as CEO. Because if you're going to be the person that chooses the strategy to help you scale, you're still the person left holding the ball at the end, right? You also then have to deliver the client results or produce the product or whatever it is that you do, while also doing this back end stuff and getting your mission out. So you may as well do it in a way that, and this is where I think that scaling is all about injecting more ease into your business. It's about finding what works and then just adding on layers, adding on, like incrementally, progressively. That's much easier than, well, I did this, it got me here, and now I don't really want to do that anymore. So I got to scale in a different way. Again, that can be done. And if you're here and you don't like how you got here, full permission to make a change. Now's your chance to make a change and to stop the wonky energy in your strategy. This is where I think this thing that a lot of business owners talk about, of where you kind of start to get to a point where, oh my God, that was so easy. Like, why was that so easy? I have conversations with my clients all the time about success and ease, because it's like we think success is supposed to be hard. And I think as business owners, that build phase, you guys, that build phase is really tough. I think that's the hardest part of business, is getting from, and I keep like doing it like this, because like you're starting from the ground up and you get here and you have a foundation. Once you have a foundation, it's just so much easier. Everything that you add or layer on, and again, I'm not suggesting that you go out and do 900 new things, but everything that you calmly add because you have time and space to do it, or because you're more efficient, or because you have a team, or whatever it is, every time you, or just because you've, repurposed content that you wrote a year ago, that's also adding. Every time you do that, your efforts exponentially have more results, because everything is cumulative. Everything builds on itself, right? And that's also why strategies work more over time. Sometimes it takes a while for the strategy to really work, but it is cumulative. And that's where I see a lot of people, I think some people think running a business is supposed to be easy, and I'm sorry, that's not the world that I live in. And I don't think it needs to be hard work, hustle. I don't think it needs to be, I've done it both ways and I've been successful both ways. So I choose the calmer, my life, my business is not a crisis type of mode. Then that I have to do 900 things. I don't. Some people also enjoy that. I don't, right? So you get to choose. And again, hustle to some people is different than hustle to me. Hustle to one person is different than hustle to another. You get to choose your pace. But back to this idea of ease. This is where I think the magic is in the scaling. This is one of my favorite things to talk about with my clients, and to help them choose the right strategy for them, because this is where the magic really hits. This is where the ease gets injected, because you've done the harder stuff, and then you have this foundation, and you get to just tweak, you get to just fine tune, you get to just make adjustments, you get to just add one simple thing, like me with my short videos. You get to just do that and then watch your impact be greater. Just like, like if you make an investment in the stock market, and you invest $10 versus investing $100,000, right? You grow, the dollars grow exponentially, assuming the stock continues to go up, right? But that dollar continues to grow, it compounds. And that's where I see a lot of my clients saying things like, oh my God, like all I did is this one thing. Really? Yes. All you did is this one thing, but you were already here or here, right? When you're starting, I think that all I did is just this one thing. I think that message gets thrown around a lot in the online space, and it sends a message to the people that are building that something's wrong if it's hard, something's wrong if it's not instant. Overnight success. All I did was I added, to use my example the other day, I added questionnaires to my discovery calls, and then I was booked out and making, 40 grand a month and all this stuff. And like, maybe, but the truth is that was the last step that they took before that sort of tipping point hit for them. These people also had to build a business. They also had to do all the things from the ground up. And so it's important, I think, always to understand where you, like, just like in yoga, they teach you proprioception, which is where your body is in space. If I'm trying to do a yoga pose and I don't quite know where my body is in space, I'm probably going to tip over. I'm probably going to lose my balance, or I'm only going to be able to do one piece of the element of the pose, right? Understanding where your business is in space, right? It's really important. I had a conversation with somebody today, and I reminded her that her business is in transition. It's been a long transition, right? Transitions sometimes are many years, sometimes months, sometimes weeks, but I had to remind her, or I didn't have to, I reminded her that she was in a transition. So it's important to know where you are, like what is reality for you in your business. And this is where scaling gets to be really fun. And so if you're there, like absolutely celebrate this, and then allow yourself to have that clear-headed decision-making process around how you choose a strategy. Because if you choose a strategy that works for you, and I don't mean works and gets you results, I mean that works for you, that like you can like full body yes it, and it aligns to your vision, and it aligns to the way that you do work, and it lines up with the team that you have or the team that you're building, then you almost like never have to choose another strategy again, right? It's just little tweaks and stuff along the way. And that's where it gets to be fun. That's where the magic starts to happen. That's where the scales tip. That's where the ease gets to go greater and greater and greater. And you say to your coach, or you say to your business bestie, like, oh my God, like all I did was this one thing, and look what happened. And again, it's not because you did the one thing. It's because you did all the things that came before the one thing. But this is where scaling, I just love scaling. I love this aspect of the work because I think it's really interesting, and I find it really fun. I geek out about strategy, but you can also start to pull different levers. The final thing I want to say about scaling is looking at it from the perspective of like a scientific experiment. And I'm not saying try this, throw it away, try this, throw it away, try this, throw it away. I'm not saying experiment like that. But if you have something that works or mostly works, take what's working, you know, all the things that we talked about today, build on what's already working, and find ways to adjust or let go of what's not working. As you do that, you can pull different levers, or you can adjust little things. Like back to that, if you remember science class in high school or middle school, where they talk about the dependent and the independent variable, right? And control group, right? So your strategy is this. What happens instead of like changing 5 things at once? What happens if I keep my strategy as it is and I just change this one thing? I can't move one finger, and I just change this one thing, right? I'm just going to change this one thing in my strategy. Everything else is going to stay the same. If I control everything else and I change this one variable, I really will know. Give it lots of time, give it at least 90 days. I really will know by observing what impact that has, what impact it has to my impact, what impact it has to my income, what impact it has to my following. I will know what impact it has to my fulfillment. I will know what impact it has to my audience. Maybe they love it, maybe they hate it, maybe you don't know, right? But like, if you experiment in a controlled way, better said, if you experiment in a strategic way and you look at one thing at a time, then you will know the causation. You will know what's making the change and what's not. You'll know what you like and what you don't, and you can just keep tweaking and fine-tuning from there. And it is just magical. Okay, I'm not seeing any comments. I don't know, but I'm seeing people live, so I don't know if that means the comments aren't working or you guys are just being quiet, which is totally fine. If you have questions about scaling, send me a DM, put a comment here in the group. I would love, love, love to talk to you about it, or love, love, love to comment back to you on my perspective. I have more on this topic that I want to say, but I wanted to just at least sort of start setting the stage today with this topic. So again, based on your questions, based on your comments, you can send it to me privately if that makes you feel better. That may help me tweak our next live, or the next live on this topic. Next week, so 2 quick announcements. One, I still have, as I said in the beginning, I still have 2 slots left for one-on-one coaching. And then after that, I don't think I have another slot till March. I actually think it might be April. I think it's until April. So if you're interested, hop on a free call with me. I'll drop the link here in the comments. The other announcement that I have, oh my God, where did it go? Oh, the other announcement that I have is next week's live. I'm really excited about next week's live. So many of you know that I had to navigate, one of my big challenges last year was I had to navigate a neck injury that happened in like May, I think it was June. And I am still dealing with, I'm doing so much better. But that was a huge challenge for me, obviously personally, but also professionally. And I made a lot of changes in my business as a result of that. It really fast tracked some things that I thought I would do maybe a year later. And I really sped some things up that I wasn't really at the moment prepared to do, but I really needed to do, i.e., for example, sneak peek, changing my team structure and growing my team to support me because I could not type or click. And the way that I supported my clients, I had to make lots of changes. And I want to share that with you next week as a behind the scenes, because the other thing that I think is really important to share and I'm really happy about is I also tripled my income last year. And I didn't triple my income last year because I had a neck injury. I didn't triple my income because I changed things around as a result of the neck injury. I think I would have tripled my income anyway. I was already set up to scale last year. And I think as a result of the changes, I actually think as a result of the changes that I made because of this neck injury, I'm now set up to scale even further. And so I really want to talk about that because I think it's a great example of some of what we're talking about today, where you can pull some of those levers, you can do some experiments, you can build on what's already working. And I had to take some things, y'all, off my plate. And that was not fun, and it was painful, and it was hard for me. And I'm still standing, and I'm still paying my bills, and I tripled my income last year. So I'm going to talk to you about that next week. We'll kind of use it like as a case example, but also let it be a reminder to you that, you know, whatever you're dealing with in your personal lives, even if, because most of the time it does, it bleeds into your professional life, like it doesn't mean that you can't run a business sustainably and also deal with your personal life. And last year was a great example of that. So I want to share that with you next week. So please join me live if you can. Catch the replay next week if you can. And as always, if you have questions, comments, or topics you want me to cover, let me know. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me. Have a lovely, lovely week. And I will see you back here next week. Same time, same place. See you then.